Hampshire, I would suggest that these same people make those statements to a fellow named John Langdon. John Langdon, who fully 2 years before the Declaration of Independence ran through the streets of Portsmouth, New Hampshire on December 14, 1774, calling for volunteers to join him to help liberate the powder and military stores that were cached at Fort William and Mary. They might want to say that to John Sullivan, who the very next night joined with a group of fellow patriots and stormed the fort, taking the gunpowder, taking the weapons, and fully 16 cannon that had the name of the king written on them. Both Langdon and Sullivan, along with some Massachusetts fellow named Paul Revere, clearly understood the purpose of the British government these 2 years before our Declaration of Independence was not only to discontinue the export of arms and gunpowder to North America, but to effectively and eventually disarm the colonists. These folks might want to make these statements to a couple of Texican ladies named Cynthia Burns and Evelyn DeWitt, who've been warned that the dictator Santa Anna, where's Carlos? Okay. Warned the dictator Santa Anna intended to confiscate the cannon that defended their hometown of Gonzales and ultimately disarm the people of Texas. Little old ladies like me and Cynthia and Eveline sewed up a flag, and on that flag it echoed one of the mottos of ancient Greece. It said, "Come and take it." These same folks might want to consider making those outrageous statements about the Second Amendment to the freedmen after the war between the states. But, as you might imagine, I suspect they would not be well received. Who here today, in this crowd, under this tent, at this wonderful place, believes that the American colonials, our forefathers, would have been able to free themselves from the tyrant George III had they been disarmed? Who here today believes that New Hampshire would be a free state had Mr. Langdon and Mr. Sullivan and maybe even Mr. Revere not ridden to arms in the middle of the night on their own to warn their fellow citizens that the British military not only were coming, but were coming to disarm us and leave us defenseless against King George. I know that there's at least one other Texan here in this crowd today, and I would ask him that if he believes that the tyrant Santa Anna would not have crushed an unarmed Cynthia or Eveline. And finally, who here today believes that the specific wording of the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, drafted by men who took up those arms to keep us free from a British tyrant, was meant for any reason other than to protect them, their sons and daughters, their unborn generations, and our liberty from those once and future tyrants. Thomas Jefferson famously said, "When governments fear the people, there's liberty. When the people fear government, there's tyranny." But under the guise of public good and climbing on the bodies of poor murdered children, there's some who wish to render the Second Amendment toothless and return us to a state of being disarmed and helpless. Later in his life, Jefferson wrote in a letter, a private letter. He says, "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. As a free woman in a free state, as a beneficiary of the blood that was shed by my forefathers, as one to whom nature and nature's God granted life, liberty, and the chance to pursue happiness, I take up Jefferson's oath. The Second Amendment is my birthright. A free state in a constitutional republic is my birthright. As King Leonidas said at the Battle of Thermopylae, and as Evelyn DeWitt said at the Battle of Gonzales, Molan Labe, come and take it. Come and take it." Thanks, Jane.
Crop tape.